Thank you for joining us today.
It is my pleasure to be here today. Thank you, Jen.
I have to tell the audience that in my old role as an analyst, I interviewed Bill about a year ago. And I'm still, even though I've left the firm, getting emails about how energetic that speech was. So you have big shoes to fill, Bill, versus last year. And I know we can fill them.
I appreciate it. That's why I've switched to water. Everybody listening, it's okay. It's all right. It's not going to be that much energy, I promise.
So, Bill, maybe just start by talking a little bit. Your actual title is EVP of Digital Solutions for Switch, of course, but you wear many more hats, both within Switch and outside of Switch. So give us a little background there.
I'm really lucky with my role at Switch and working with this extraordinary organization that focuses not just on creating amazing technologies for the masses, but also around karma, giving back to the communities. And my role at Switch allows me to work everything from our development teams to what we're doing in building out edge, cloud computing, even working with our robotics teams and working with automation. So my hands are full on a daily basis with really cool projects that we get a chance to work on. Outside of Switch, everyone's more than welcome to use a search engine of their choice to put my name in there. But I am a published writer, author, blogger, contributing editor to places like Information Week, Dark Reading, Data Center Knowledge, Data Center Frontier, and several others. I'm also the author of several industry reports, including the AFCOM State of the Data Center Report. And I am so honored to be doing the fifth one, the 2021 State of the Data Center Report, which, Jen, I'll give you some sneak peek tidbits as we kind of go through the conversation.
Perfect. Can't wait. That's great. Well, great background, obviously more than qualified, and we can all learn a lot from your very smart data infrastructure, whatever we're going to call it, brain. So maybe I'll start with a bigger picture question. Can you talk, the calendar has just turned to 2021, closing on a wild and crazy year last year. But from your seat, I'm really curious as to what you see as kind of the three themes to watch for. I'll say in the data center space, but if you want to expand it, that's fine too.
All right. It's going to be 3.5 just because there's one thing that I just could not exclude from this conversation. So I really feel that this year is going to be the year of where we finally bridge the gap in communications and connectivity, right? Edge computing, let's call it, right? Mm-hmm. Where we're going to be able to light up more of these infrastructure pieces in our communities in rural and remote areas that have been, how do I say it, craving connectivity, right? We've got food deserts, right? We've got connectivity deserts as well, not just in our country, but all over the world as well. So we'll talk about edge in just a little bit, but throw out the marketing words. We are going to be seeing more projects about building new capabilities to connect more communities, more systems, more hospitals, more machines together. And that's going to be a big part of edge. Another one that I really want everyone to start looking at are autonomous systems. Everything from automation at the data center side to things like advanced robotics, drones, automated facilities, and so on. We are seeing people get extraordinarily creative with how they leverage autonomous things. And this is going to become especially true when we have, unmanned locations and facilities, whether they're smaller environments or even bigger ones that need additional help, not replacing people, but augmenting them and giving them new capabilities and doing greater things in the environment. Definitely keep an eye on that. Another big one, and I'm sure you're not surprised by this, is going to be green and renewable resources. We have seen continuous investment in new battery technologies from all sorts of folks, everyone from Bill Gates to obviously the purveyors from the biggest cloud organizations. Even we at Switch have just embarked on an extraordinary journey, the world's largest behind the meter solar plus battery array that's ever been deployed. In fact, I'm not mistaken, we were the largest non-utility to ever purchase Tesla megapacks for this really amazing project. And it's not just special in the sense that we can power massive environments, hyperscale, exascale data centers, but also cities, communities, all with green and renewable energy. So when that sun sets, you never lose the power because now we have advanced batteries to support that. You will be seeing more of this. You will be seeing initiatives in hydro, geothermal, wind energy, solar, of course. I mean, people are getting creative. If you saw what Microsoft did with Project Natick, where they shoved a data center into the water, into the sea, 100+ feet under, and you know what they learned? It was efficient. It ran pretty well, and they pulled it up and talk about different kinds of applications of data centers on the water. Now, we're maybe don't throw your racks into the sea just yet,
Okay.
But these are some of the really creative things. So just to quickly sum it up, edge computing, autonomous systems, green renewable energies. And the one big final point that I want to make is talent.
Okay.
Talent in the data center. That's going to be a major, major focus. I'm a millennial. Maybe the beard doesn't show it right now, but we have a serious challenge in getting new young people into this industry. And a lot of them, they're adopted in the data center, coming from DevOps, networking, security. And they realize that our infrastructures aren't just big buildings and blinking lights. There's so much more to the process of developing not old school legacy facilities, but what we can actually support in the future. And you're going to see more schools, more education, and more searching for talent, that those young people, diversity and inclusion perspective, very much in mind, that are going to be supporting these facilities. So if you're thinking about these next things in 2021, please don't forget about the people that support it all.
Got it. Maybe just tail on that. How is the staffing right now, talent? Is it a heavy lift to find the qualified people, or what are you seeing out there?
It is very challenging. When I sit with on the advisory board for Infrastructure Masons, which by the way is a really wonderful organization, I remember specifically sitting in London in a group of all of my peers and my competitors. But at this point, we've hung our name badges on the wall. We're all colleagues and peers. Every single one of them is challenged with finding new talent for this industry, new people. And this scales from engineers working on rows and racks, designing the next generation efficiency in facilities, electrical wiring, working with affluent water pumps, all of this stuff that functions and creates a data center, all the way to the architectural side where people can see the bigger picture of how data centers are being designed. I'm being honest, every single one of those people in that room, some of my largest competitors were saying that we need to find people. And this is why so many of them are currently working as mentors, mentorship programs, engaging with, everything from large scale universities. I just did my first lecture at USC School of Engineering, talking about advanced design for data centers specifically, all the way out to minority universities and colleges, because we do want the diversity in our industries very, very badly.
Got it. Okay. We're going to get into that. That's really helpful. I want to switch to one of the terms that Switch and maybe even you coined, which I found so interesting in doing some due diligence, the fourth cloud. Explain that. What is the fourth cloud?
So that's a really, really good question, right? And the idea here is, first of all, I'm not going to apologize for not throwing another marketing word out there. That's really what IT is about, is not marketing, but innovation. And one thing, innovation is not this cool, funky, amazing word anymore. It's all about survival. So when you think about some of the new things that are out there, it's really important to understand how these solutions can fundamentally change and impact what we do every single day. So the fourth cloud, as we see it at Switch, is really the independent private side of multi-cloud, where we're delivering the capability and with this initiative to focus on bringing multi-cloud resources and exascale compute power closer to where these customers run their businesses. And taking this approach really allows organizations to make real-time decisions using capabilities like artificial intelligence, machine learning, and 5G. We're combining cloud, all of its variants, public, hybrid, et cetera, fog computing, fog and edge. Let's kind of mix those two together.
Sure.
Mist computing, which, by the way, I implore everyone to start researching mist computing, which is the extreme edge when we start to do things like localized analytics and leveraging decision-making data, where we do things like data geofencing and access control to enforce things like privacy at that localized level, deeper integration with usability and in smarter tools and smarter machines. I implore everyone to take a look at that and really combining all of this together to create this kind of platform, this fourth cloud, where we deliver these capabilities in an independent private side in combining all the powerful tools, services, applications, and important things that we bring to what we do every single day. It's that private side of multi-cloud, independent private side of multi-cloud.
Are you, in talking to the Switch customers, are they thinking like this, or are you having to educate them on this?
So this was really, really cool. During the AFCOM State of the Data Center report, we found, hope everybody's sitting down right now, that more than 70% of the people are seeing the repatriation of workloads from public cloud into the data center. Now, before anybody throws the book at me, that does not mean people are pulling away from the cloud. There is so much business out there for cloud computing, the public cloud vendors. But what we are seeing is that organizations, and I'm really grateful for this, because I think it's maturity in our industry where people are better understanding what should be in the cloud and what needs to be on-prem. Where are there efficiencies? Where are there benefits? How do I better control latency and the user experience, which is absolutely critical? Because cloud offers this super agile ecosystem that's fluid, that allows us to develop applications and services, leverage things like containerized services. But when we need that physical horsepower, dedicated instances in the cloud are expensive, and sometimes they're not near your customer. So that proves to be a challenge. So one of the things that we're seeing is, yes, Jen, long-winded answer, customers are absolutely talking about those. How do I bridge this connectivity divide? How do I go downstream in the market, right? For tier 2, tier 3, tier 4 markets, not these large metropolitan areas, but rural remote cities that are craving connectivity, where cloud computing can't often help, but we need to leverage things like multi-cloud, different resources, and we need to combine this power all together. Multi-cloud and hybridized services, I hate using this word, are really the new normal, because you can't put all of your eggs in one basket. And
Right.
Even in my previous position, I had a chance to work with a company that was EPAM Systems. They were some of the best digital engineers that I've ever had a chance to work with. Almost every single one of our projects was a multi-cloud kind of an instance. And we absolutely see that as sort of the future. So yeah, every single kind of customer that's trying to impact, obviously, this digital industry is asking, how do I leverage the best of the data center, the best of the cloud, and the best of the services that are available to me, and combine it all together in a cool management platform?
And Bill, has COVID only accelerated that kind of line of thinking, or do you think it would have happened in 2019 had we had a non-COVID environment?
Yes. That's the shortest answer you're going to get from me.
Right.
I feel like there's definitely pandemic fatigue, right? I've written papers on this. I've
Yeah.
had conversation about it. I've even looked at the psychological impact of Gen Zs, who were supposed to be the penultimate balance between interpersonal communication and using digital tools. The pandemic taught us a lot. Our reliance and resiliency, our reliance on just communications in general. I mean, look at what happened to these collaboration tools. We learned how to collaborate. People who have never spent a day outside the office are now contemplating, my goodness, is this my new environment? Is this my new office? Is this how I'm going to be computing? And you have to create connectivity for that. And people work remotely. The office is anywhere because you can be anywhere. But the challenge for us, these organizations that provide this connectivity, is how do we deliver the tools to you to allow you to be most productive and most efficient? So again, long-winded answer, Jen, yes, absolutely. The pandemic taught us so much about connectivity, where there's drawbacks, where we can improve upon, things like latency, things like edge computing. How do we deliver these kinds of powerful experiences to people all over the world? So we learned a lot, and we learned that, boy, did we ever hit the accelerator button on how to make sure people can stay connected.
Yes, exactly. No, I took my 16-year-old to the chiropractor the other day because he had a sore neck, and the diagnosis was a tech neck, which I thought was a new term. I guess it's happening with all the teenagers who are Zooming all day.
Oh my goodness.
So I also wanted to ask, and this you mentioned as a theme, so I've got to drill down on it.
Okay.
How do you the edge? How do you define it? Is it still kind of the whiteboard concept? I'm guessing no, based on your intro, but I want to explore that point a little bit further.
I'm lucky enough to have sat on a few panels, and I've done a couple of these investment calls as well, or just people looking into how do I understand edge from a technical as well as non-technical perspective. And here's the really cool part. You can define edge in a couple of different ways. I've sat on a panel where there was an individual who basically provides solutions that are software defined, really on that software level for edge computing. And this person sees edge more as a software driven architecture, right? They're not wrong. That's totally fine. But let's take this to like the highest level, almost breaking into the space, highest level definition. The goal of edge is to bring data, services, and applications as close to the source and the user as possible, right? Yeah. That's the entire goal here. From there, by all means, define it however you want, whether it's a physical location, whether it's kind of a digital service or software that delivers those kind of capabilities. Your goal is to deliver often complex services, applications, and even data points as close to the source as possible, whether it's a person or a device that might be processing it. That's really it. That's what edge computing is, the ability to bring these things as close to the edge, I guess, as possible. I don't think this is really a whiteboard concept. I do think that people understand what it is to build an edge computing environment and really the goals behind it. Now, the other thing is that if you're a telecommunications company, if you're a media company, if you're a hospital or healthcare worker, or if you're government, your edge, it might look different. But ultimately, the goal and the purpose of what you're doing is going to be very similar. Improve experiences, bring data closer to the source, be able to do things like localized analytics, being able to filter some of this data before you send it out into the cloud. The good news is that people understand that there is an edge market and how to generally define the edge. I think the challenge right now is a lot of people are asking, okay, cool. We know that there's a market there. How do I get there? I really want to be a part of this.
Yeah. Yeah. And is there a struggle with actually extracting profit from it? But maybe I'll explore, lead into my next question, which is an interesting partnership that Switch has announced with both FedEx and Dell. And maybe, is that an example of kind of a profit-making edge project?
It really is. In case you can't see my shirt, it says data matters. And I really do believe in that, right? Data does matter and it's really important. So Okay, everybody, follow me on this, okay? And I promise this is the water talking at this point, and I'm just really excited about this. There's a market for edge computing. There 100% is a market for edge computing. People need that level of connectivity. Downstream markets that want better healthcare services, government, entertainment, education, whatever, they don't want to be limited to one connectivity option, etc. They want that higher level of bandwidth that oftentimes rural America, the rural parts of the world, simply don't get. So a lot of my competitors, a lot of people in my industry are asking a very, very introspective question. Okay, I know the edge market is there, but how do I get there? Do I build my own? Do I have to buy real estate space? Do I have to, partner with somebody? What's the equation? And we at Switch, we feel that we hit the nail on the head, at least in some aspects of figuring this out. Basically, here's what we're trying to do. We have something called the Mod 15, which is our edge product. And it is a truck and air transportable modular, basically a data center that can be deployed and dropped pretty much anywhere. But what was really amazing is that we partnered with Dell EMC for their amazing infrastructure. There's single click provisioning of workloads anywhere. So we've got the infrastructure, we've got the design from our Switch. It's a system plus system, tier 4 design, again, high levels of resiliency. And then we figured out the concepts of real estate. We're going to be deploying this edge facility at every single FedEx logistical hub in the country, right? There's many of them, over 100. And the idea here is that we know these logistical hubs are placed in important markets, tier 1, tier 2, tier 3, tier 4, and downstream, but they're centralized locations. We already know that FedEx in the world logistics, right? You deal in milliseconds, right? You need that level of fast response, whatever it takes. So those customers in those locations, in those cities, are all of a sudden going to get the opportunity for a high bandwidth, high connection capability. But anyone leveraging those facilities as well can all of a sudden, hang on a second, say there is a compute instance right here attached to my logistical hub, which is going to allow me to make faster and better decisions about what's actually being transported in the area. Oh my God, I want in on this because I can do a small compute instance, process the data that's coming in, and allow me to respond way faster to the market in that market than literally ever before. That's our formula. And from what I've seen in the market, I feel like, as the size and scale of our network continues to increase, we see this growing reliance on real-time connectivity. We really do, to data that resides at the edge, these furthest reaches of our markets. And that's what we're doing. And working with FedEx and Dell and obviously our organization, we create a more local cloud-based environment that offers our users this access to their workloads and all of their data points with far greater flexibility and ultimately speed. It's really special. I'm really excited to be deploying this.
And with that prototype or, an example, is that leading to new conversations with, many different customers?
Absolutely. It's a very novel approach. It's a part of the reason why we received so much media about this, because honestly, no one else has done this. No one else has kind of thought of how to do this. We literally figured out, we know that FedEx isn't going to be deploying a logistical hub and just put one there. It's cool. It's great there. They're going to be putting them in strategic locations that are going to be centralized to core metropolitan, non-metropolitan, even rural areas to facilitate fast delivery of their products or packages. So we know that we are entering into markets that are key to the United States, into a global economic community. And our goal is obviously to support as much of the market as possible in those rural areas, to be a good citizen in those markets as well, give back to these communities as well, and really become a part of how, my goodness, Jen, of how people connect in a new age, 2021 and beyond, removing those connectivity deserts, and really allowing people to consume greater levels of bandwidth and improved content. I mean, that's the goal.
Yes, got it. So Bill, my last question, because you really do have a wider lens, is on 5G. You know, I've often thought that data centers are more of like a dotted line to a 5G conversation, whereas you touched on it earlier, but I feel like there should be more of a straight line. And how do you see data centers being involved in, do you see it being a key pillar in a 5G infrastructure or ecosystem, whatever word we were using?
I think that 5G, there's still a little bit of learning to be had with 5G technologies. And everybody listening, please just take some time. There's some really great articles out there that talk about what 5G really is, in the sense of not just connecting your phone and stuff or like an iPad, but really a much deeper connectivity to communications and telecommunications as well. So please understand it is different. With 5G, you have this really wonderful capability where you can actually start to leverage things like licensed and unlicensed frequencies. And that's not like you're doing anything bad. It's just you have the capability, for example, to create your own microcellular networks. Let's say you're an airport, for example, or a critical hub. Let's use the airport as an example, right? You deploy your own 5G tower. So all of a sudden, you're no longer reliant on a cellular network that if it goes down, your airport is down, right? You can have this own sort of compartmentalized geofence cellular network. And this could be the same thing for like large retailers, distribution centers, where they require that sort of high level of bandwidth and localized processing. Now, as you can imagine, that plays really well with edge computing, right? You're in a remote area, right? You need a better way to communicate. You can deploy your own frequency. You can connect to a 5G network, and all of a sudden you are leveraging really high bandwidth resources to facilitate whatever it is that you might be doing at the edge. Is a straight line required between 5G and edge computing? Not always, because let's say if you're deploying a edge ecosystem at a really big metropolitan, urban area, and you just don't need that additional connectivity, you can deploy a 5G tower, just for some kind of communication, but ultimately you might not need it. But in rural, remote areas where you need a secondary level of communication or even a primary one, 5G and edge tie very closely together. And it's important for everyone to sort of understand the use cases, how you can develop your own frequencies, where there's levels of resilience and redundancy you can create with 5G. It's a pretty cool network, and I think it's going to be one of those tools that's going to help us remove these, connectivity deserts and create higher levels of bandwidth in places that have never been able to get out of, like, let's say dial-up, right? I don't remember the last time I heard that sound, but realistically being able to consume bandwidth at much greater rates. So I do believe there's going to be a huge tie. I can't go out and say that there's going to be a direct, bold line between the two, but I think there's a very, very deep connection between data center, edge, and 5G technologies.
Terrific. Well, Bill, this is, I'm going to go rewatch it because my notes are a bit chicken scratch, but we've all learned a lot, and thank you so much. I'm sorry we can't take our selfie on Zoom like we did last time, but really welcome to your insight and your views. Thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you so much, Jen. It was a pleasure. Thanks, everybody.